The story begins with a woman named Sonia. One night, Sonia has a terrible dream that wakes her up suddenly. Sonia lives with her husband, Stan, and their daughter, Violett, in a house deep in the forest, far away from other people. Because of their remote location, Sonia often feels scared and lonely. Stan is a doctor and leaves for work every day, while Violett goes to school. This means Sonia is left alone in the house, which makes her feel even worse. Every morning, Sonia eats breakfast, takes Violett to school, and returns home to spend the day alone. She feels afraid and uneasy in the empty house. In the evening, Stan and Violett return home, but even then, Sonia feels distant from Stan. Their relationship seems strained, and Sonia's loneliness affects her deeply. One evening, Violett is watching the story of Snow White on TV. It's the part where the witch gives Snow White a poisoned apple. After dinner, Sonia puts Violett to bed. Violett tells her that she wants Ava to sleep with her. Sonia is confused and asks who Ava is. Violett explains that Ava is a doll under her bed. Sonia looks under the bed and finds the doll. Violett says it was given to her by a woman. Sonia immediately tells Violett not to accept gifts from strangers and takes the doll away. Later, Sonia's mother notices her sadness and asks what's wrong. Sonia tells her mother that she feels something bad is in the house. Her mother tries to comfort her, saying everything will be fine and there's no need to worry. However, Sonia remains upset. When Stan asks her what's bothering her, she doesn't tell him and instead gets angry. One day while taking a shower, Sonia has a strange dream. In the dream, she is in a field full of flowers, and she hears a radio announcement about missing children. The next day, as she picks up Violett from school, Violett asks Sonia about death. Sonia is surprised and asks why Violett is asking this. Violett explains that a girl at school said people die like plants and go into the soil. Sonia tells Violett that it's not true and warns her not to talk to strangers. The story might seem strange now, but as it unfolds, secrets hidden within the house will soon be revealed. The next day, Sonia is alone at home again when someone knocks on the door. She opens it and sees an old lady standing there with a basket of fruits. The woman explains that her tree produces too many fruits and calls Sonia her neighbor. Sonia, being cautious, refuses to take the fruits. The old lady becomes angry and starts saying that the fruits will make her children healthy and live long lives, questioning whether Sonia doesn't want that for her daughter. Suddenly, the woman's expression changes, and she transforms into a terrifying figure. Frightened, Sonia quickly shuts the door. If you look closely at the old lady, she resembles a witch, just like the one from the Snow White story Violett was watching earlier. The scene then shifts to Sonia's childhood. Her father is burning a field, and young Sonia is sitting nearby, drawing. In her drawing there is a figure that looks like a killer. When her father sees it, he becomes angry, possibly because Sonia had seen something frightening. This part of the story hints at something significant about Sonia's past, which will become clear later. We learn that Sonia's father was not normal. He was abusive. Sonia meets her mother, who apologizes for the suffering Sonia endured during her childhood because of her father. That night, Sonia has the same dream again. In it, she and Violett are in a field full of flowers, flying kites together. The scene changes again, and Sonia takes Violett to a cafe. While there, Sonia notices a news report about a missing girl. Afterward, she starts feeling uneasy and experiencing strange things. She begins to have hallucinations. Her surroundings turn black and white, like an old retro video. At one point, she imagines her daughter disappearing. Panicked, Sonia runs out to look for Violett. She sees an ice cream van and a man feeding severed fingers to children, with Violett among them. But it turns out to be just her imagination. Later that night, Sonia and Violett are at home. Violett is watching TV, and Sonia calls her close. Sonia reassures Violett that no matter what happens, she will protect her. The next day, Stan, Sonia, and Violett go fishing. During the outing, it's clear that Violett isn't very close to her father. She prefers to spend time with Sonia, making paintings and crafts. Back at home, Violett shows Sonia her crafting, which is strange and scary. She also has a doll of a witch. Sonia realizes that this doll is the same witch who came to their house offering fruits. It becomes clear to Sonia that the old lady and the witch are the same person. The next day, Sonia was on her way to drop her daughter, Violett, at school when she noticed a painter on the side of the road. The painter called them over and insisted they look at his paintings. Sonia and Violett approached and saw that his paintings depicted the same children who had recently gone missing. Sonia felt terrified upon seeing this, especially when she realized the painter was a ghost. She quickly stepped away, but in the next moment, everything returned to normal. It seemed as though Sonia's loneliness and isolation were affecting her mental health, making her see things that weren't real. Later at home, Stan came to see Sonia. He noticed that something was wrong with her and asked what was troubling her. He tried to comfort her, saying he wanted to help her. Sonia told him she loved him and hugged him tightly. This triggered a memory from her past, where her father forced her to work on his farm without giving her food. In one instance, she saw her father slaughter a sheep with a knife. Horrified, young Sonia ran away, but her father caught her. The memory faded, and Sonia returned to the present day, where her routine remained unchanged. Stan went to work, Violett went to school, and Sonia stayed home alone. That day, a plumber came to the door to check the fittings in the house. Sonia let him in. While inspecting the kitchen sink, the plumber found a camera inside. Sonia realized it was Violett's camera, a gift she had given her daughter on her 10th birthday. But why was it in the sink? This puzzled Sonia deeply. Later that night, Stan returned home. Sonia tried to explain everything to him but stopped midway. She decided to show him the camera, but when she went to retrieve it, it was gone. Panicking, she accused Stan of taking it. Stan tried to calm her down, explaining that she was imagining things. But Sonia became uncontrollable and started calling out for Violett, screaming loudly. Stan, frustrated, stopped her with a loud shout. He looked at Sonia as though he was dealing with a completely different person. Another flashback emerged in Sonia's mind. She remembered how her father had punished her as a child. He showed her the skull of a goat and claimed it wasn't an ordinary skull but one containing a demon. He told Sonia she would have to stay alone with the skull that night, and the demon would decide her fate. This was just a ploy to scare her, but it left deep trauma in Sonia's mind. Her father hung the skull nearby and left her alone, amplifying her fear. Although the demon was not real, the trauma from this experience stayed with Sonia into adulthood, shaping her fears and mental struggles. Back in the present, Sonia was searching frantically for Violett, calling her name repeatedly, but Violett didn't respond. Then, in a shocking twist, the movie revealed a terrifying and unexpected scene, finally unraveling the mystery of Sonia's life and her troubled mind. The story reached its climax, leaving the audience stunned. Stan shockingly tells Sonia to forget about Violett because she is dead. Yes, Violett will never come back. Everything Sonia has been seeing since the beginning has been a creation of her empty mind. Violett never existed in their present reality. Here, the story takes a dramatic twist. Their daughter Violett had disappeared long ago, just like the other missing children. All the moments Sonia thought she shared with Violett were only her imaginations, based on her memories of the past. Sonia begins to cry, overwhelmed by this truth. She says she wishes she had gone to take Violett to school herself that day. Then none of this would have happened. As Sonia becomes more distressed, Stan tries to take her back inside the house, but instead, she walks outside and falls asleep in the garden. The next day, Stan takes Sonia to a mental health center, where she stays for a few days. After some time, she is brought back home, and she starts to look a little better. However, her mind is still troubled. Sonia believes that the plumber who visited their house was involved in kidnapping Violett, and might still have her. Despite this, Stan and Sonia try to live a somewhat normal life. One day, Stan suggests that they could plan for another child. Sonia, however, replies that Violett never wanted siblings. She only wanted a good mother, which Sonia feels she could never be. The scene then shifts. Stan tells Sonia he is going out for a short walk and will return by night. He leaves the house and heads toward a forest with a shovel. In the forest, Stan stops at a spot, starts digging, and uncovers something shocking: a goat's skull and Violett's body. Stan places flowers there, revealing that Violett wasn't just missing. She had been dead all along. Another shocking truth comes to light. Violett never disappeared. Instead, her father had likely killed her. The story flashes back to a time when the family went fishing. During that trip, Violett found a goat's skull, which she became fascinated with. Violett had always been interested in unusual things like this. Her father told her to throw the skull away, but Violett brought it home. She even made videos with the skull using the camera her mother had gifted her on her 10th birthday. One day, Stan told Violett to stop this behavior, but she didn't listen. During an argument, he accidentally killed her. Terrified by what he had done, he buried Violett's body in the forest and told everyone she had gone missing. Sonia believed this story and convinced herself that Violett was lost. Back in the present, Stan is overwhelmed by guilt and breaks down, crying over what he has done. In a shocking moment, he takes his own life by shooting himself. Sonia, unaware of Stan's death, begins searching for him. She finds Violett's camera outside the house and keeps it with her. As she continues looking for Stan, she wonders if the plumber who had visited their home was somehow connected to Stan. She suspects the camera holds a secret too devastating for her to face, something Stan wanted to keep hidden from her. After some time, Sonia finds her daughter's grave with Stan. Seeing this, she starts crying uncontrollably, unable to process what she is witnessing. While she is still in shock, a police team arrives. Sonia sits nearby and checks her daughter Violett's camera. On the camera, she finds a video that Violett had made, featuring the same skull she had brought home. This is when the final twist of the story is revealed. In the video, Sonia is seen scolding Violett, forbidding her from playing with the skull. Sonia tries to snatch it away from Violett, but in the struggle, the sharp horn of the skull accidentally cuts Violett's throat. Violett falls into the bathtub and dies. When Stan discovers what happened, he decides to protect Sonia. He takes Violett's body to the forest, buries her, and tells Sonia that Violett has been kidnapped. To shield her from the pain and guilt, Stan invents the story that Violett went missing, and Sonia's mind eventually accepts this lie as the truth. She convinces herself that her daughter had been taken and creates an imaginary version of Violett to cope with the guilt and loss. In her mind, she begins living a fake life where Violett is still present. Now, as Sonia watches the video and pieces everything together, she finally realizes what she has done. She understands the enormous crime she committed, albeit unintentionally. She also recognizes how good her husband Stan was. He took all the blame upon himself to protect her, ensuring she never had to face the harsh reality or consequences of her actions. Sonia finds herself standing near a pond surrounded by flowers. It is here that she reflects on the sacrifices Stan made for her. She understands that Stan loved her so much that he took on the burden of her crime so she wouldn't have to suffer. Sonia also starts to connect this trauma to her own troubled childhood, where her father treated her abusively. This realization leaves Sonia overwhelmed with sadness and regret as she finally understands the gravity of her actions. The movie ends with Sonia looking devastated, fully grasping the terrible sin she has committed and the pain it has caused.